pastor asked me if I would give a testimony. Said keep it 3 to 5 minutes, so I made a little outline here. I do have a fault. Sometimes I'm much too detailed, so I'm going to try to just hang with that. I'd like to tell you something about myself, my journey, and what Jesus did for me, and things that happened along the way. I was born and raised in a little town in north central New Jersey. Both my parents worked. My mom was a night nurse, a supervisor, and my dad was a construction worker. I went to the same school, kindergarten through 8th grade. In that school, we had the Pledge of Allegiance every day. We had Bible reading every day, usually from Psalms, especially the 23rd Psalm. And we learned the Lord's Prayer. Growing up, I only knew of 2 churches in town, a Presbyterian church and a Catholic church. I was not Catholic. I knew nothing about what was involved with church. I had been taught and learned from the Lord's Prayer. When you would like something, you needed something, you desired something, you prayed to God. It's about as far as it went with me as a young man. My mother made sure I went to Sunday school and church. I attended until I was about 10 or 11. Life was too busy for me for church after that. No, Mom, I'm a big boy. I don't need that. I'm going to make a reference right now. I had no idea how much I heard in those years would come back to me later. So don't ever underestimate when you're sitting in church with a child how much they're hearing and getting. My wife used to say they're like little sponges. They take in a lot of stuff. To me, a very strange thing happened when I was 14 or 15. I had worked summer jobs. I had some money. Like I said, I was really not invested in church or God. And yet one day I'm in a store and here's a book, a paperback. I said, I got to buy that book. I still have it. I'm afraid it's packed away, or I would have brought it with me. It was called Good News for the Modern Man. It was the New Testament written in plain English. I read it cover to cover. I have no idea why I bought that book, but I felt compelled to. I started high school. Again, I was too busy for church. Sunday I acted like, as we used to call it, worshiping St. Mattress. But even in high school, when I played football, before every game, the coach would call us together. We would take a knee and we'd recite the Lord's Prayer. Nobody asked what your faith or religion was. So the Lord's Prayer became very embedded in me. I graduated from high school but didn't go to college. My family couldn't afford it. So I got a job through the summers of my high school year and after high school before I found a real job. I was a laborer. I worked the back of a garbage truck before they had lift things. We rode on the little step on the back. Some of you may remember those kind of trucks. The guy I worked for also had a cesspool cleaning business. There was no silver spoon in my life. If there was, I probably would have hawked it for the money. Then I moved on and got a job at the Bell System, Ma Bell as we called it, which was what we call a cradle-to-grave job if you didn't mess up. So I stayed with them. In 1966, I was drafted into the Army and I was sent to Vietnam. I wasn't in a combat outfit, but that didn't stop the Army and all their wisdom from having me go to the field. So here's another strange thing. We were on a lodge hilltop at our midday time, and a resupply helicopter came in. They started unloading some stuff, and there was one gentleman got off wearing Army fatigues. He started unloading ammo boxes and stacking them up. He was a chaplain. So there in the middle of the day, in the middle of the jungle on a hilltop, he says, fellas, I'm going to hold service if anybody's interested. I walked over, turned my steel pot over, sat down on it, and heard a message about love and salvation. It all went right to my head. Why did I go do that? Because God was calling to me the whole time in my life. Only I couldn't see it. I returned home full of myself. I survived. I had a good job. I'm doing everything. I've got everything. In a short time, I met a young lady, and we got married. I knew nothing of love or marriage. I had an idea what it was supposed to be. You know, we had TV programs in the 50s and 60s, and they showed all this easygoing home life. Well, it doesn't really work out that way. Before I got married, and I got married in an Episcopal church, I had to undergo counseling. And counseling was being educated into God and Jesus. I was asked to declare, do I accept Jesus as a Savior? My lips said yes, because that's what we were supposed to say. I was baptized by water pouring. Okay, that's what we had to do. Well, because I didn't know much and thought I knew a lot, 5 years later I was divorced. I was kind of beside myself. About a year later, I happened to meet a lady, and we started talking for months. We got to know each other, and we became friends. And we became more than friends. We fell in love. And because I had made mistakes before, I was more in tune. What I didn't realize, God had placed this lady in my life. She witnessed to me. She would go to church and I would stay home, and then one day I said, I'm going to go to church with you. She about did a red fox. Oh, Elizabeth, this is the big one. So I went to church. Months went by. I'd hear the invitation. I couldn't quite bring myself to step out in the aisle in front of 250, 300 people. Ooh, look, there he is. But one day I did take that step. And I went forward, because a lot of my head knowledge started becoming heart knowledge. That Jesus Christ loved me. The hymn this morning, my sins were washed away. That's the most memorable thing I had. When I was baptized, when I came up out of that water, I was totally clean. I was totally forgiven. I was totally a new person. I got involved with the church. I accepted Jesus as my Savior. That's obvious now. I began working in the church. I was asked to be chairman of the ushers, 2 services a day. I was asked to become a Sunday school teacher. I did. In 1984, I was ordained a deacon. Later in life at another church, a man was talking one Sunday about a ministry he was in. It was jail ministry. He was making a plea. They were short of people. He said, anybody that's interested in joining the jail ministry, let me know. As sure as I'm speaking right now, I don't know if you've ever had this happen, I had a voice tell me, Bob, you can do that. I heard a clear voice saying I could do that. So I went to him, went through everything, started working in the jail ministry where I could help young men find Jesus Christ, find forgiveness. God was speaking to me from childhood. In my teen years, I just didn't know it. He spoke to me on a hilltop in Vietnam. He especially blessed me with a woman, a life partner for 41 years. Now I wish to share that message of salvation. I wish to share that message of forgiveness. I wish to share that lesson of God's love. So you never know when God's going to use you. And yes, I'm still a work in progress. But I thank God that He came and opened my eyes.